Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Hello there, it's Brad. The Empowerography Live Conference 2026 is happening live and in person for the first time here in Toronto in April of 2026. This is your chance to step fully into your power over 2.5 incredible days. You'll hear from 30 plus inspiring speakers, join hands-on workshops, and connect with women from around the world who are ready to grow, learn, and rise together. This isn't just an event. This is an experience that will leave you motivated, empowered, and ready to take action. Seats are limited, so head to my website and secure your spot today. All the information will be in the show notes, and we look forward to seeing you in April. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest is Regan Caruthers. She is the founder of Aset Yoga Center, where she teaches and helps her clients to achieve a more intimate and disciplined inner life. And she's also the creator of Ready to Awaken courses. Welcome, Regan. How are you doing today? I am honored and excited to have you here. Thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today to share a little bit about your story, your journey, and of course, the beautiful light you put out into the world through all the work you're doing. So with that being said, let us jump right in. I would love to know, first of all, how did the name Aset Yoga Center come to be, and what does Aset symbolize in your personal philosophy?
Yeah, great question. You know Aset, but you know her as Isis. So that's what the Greeks.
There we go.
That's what the Greeks called her, but she was Egyptian, as you may know. And based on my soul history, I just have a profound connection to Egyptian mysticism, to the spiritual practices that were part of the thread that ultimately led us to a person we call Jesus, even though that's not even his name. His name is Yeshua. But anyway, so that whole thread just informs me. And when I moved back to Missouri, it'll be 4 years in March. And I converted this beautiful, huge, like 3,000 square foot garage into my yoga center. And I thought about, what do I want to call it? Yeah, I wanted to name it after her.
Beautiful. And so before the world knew you as the teacher, who were you before the awakening even began?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I've always been a teacher. Like when I look back on my life, beginning at, I think I was maybe 7. And I had a student named Paxton, who was a neighbor, who would literally before dinner come to my home and I would design curriculum. Who does that?
At 7.
Who does that? Even as a kid at this school that I went to, where we meditated every day and did Tai Chi for gym and sang songs about how thought creates reality, I had a private...
What school was that? What the hell?
I know.
We need more of that in the world.
Oh boy, don't we? Yeah, we sure do. It's called Forsyth School. It still exists, though they're not, let's say, transparent about the history of the place. Right. It's now the elite prep school for families that want their children to go to the Ivy League. And it's funny, so many of us ended up there, but we never had homework and we were never tested and everything was individualized. Yeah, that school was founded by a woman named Mary Dunbar, who's long passed, but one of her mentors was a guy named Maxwell Maltz, who you may know. He wrote the book Psycho-Cybernetics that birthed the positive psychology movement. And he was on the board of my school. So a lot of the pedagogy, the songs that we sang, Even the meditation practices were informed by
Wow.
research. Yeah. So anyway, at the school, I had a private social club that I was the leader of. And we had like our own language. Like I made up a sign language so that we could communicate during meditation, which kind of defeats the purpose. But we were kids and we had invisible ink, and if people wanted to be part of my club, they had to interview and do all sorts of things. I don't know. That's strange, right? There's always been this impulse within me. And I mean, I had some pretty remarkable parents that didn't necessarily know how to manage the power that they were connected to. And I was clairvoyant like my mother. And that was just, as a kid, like a real load on my system. It was actually quite hard. And one fateful afternoon, I was doing gymnastics down in my basement. And this fiery, I don't know, he looked like a man to me as a little kid. I don't know who he was, but he used to terrorize me and follow me around. And anyway, this fateful afternoon, he was sitting on my washing machine in this fiery throne. I know it sounds crazy, but this is what I saw. And I screamed out loud for all of it to stop. I could hear what other people were thinking. I saw things that the average person didn't. And so I just screamed out loud for it all to stop as I ran up my basement steps. And it did. The veil came down. And I just, from that moment on, was just trying to, I don't know, adapt, be accepted, find safety, because my home was chaotic and violent and intense. I don't know. I think the juxtaposition of my early education, the conditions of my home, plus the gifts I was born with, created this, I don't know, desire to both seek and teach.
So when did those gifts then come back online for you?
Great question. Early January of 1994. So at the age of 9, that was, let me see if I can do the math. That was 1974. So from 74 to 94.
20 years. Wow.
Yeah, just trying to, I don't know, do the best I could. I believed that corporate ascension was going to lead to safety. That's a common program. And I was at a national sales meeting for a global publisher. At that time, in my mid-20s, I was managing, I don't know, $12 million of revenue for this global company, doing all the things that I thought one should do. Not very aware, certainly didn't have a spiritual practice. In fact, in my conscious working memory, I never even reflected on who I was really prior to the shutting it off, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I'm at this meeting. I'm working for a very dysfunctional company. I'm in a role that gives me access to the company leadership all the way up the food chain, right? And witnessed a lot of bad behavior. Okay, so anyway, I'm fighting the good fight at work. I'm courageous. I'm certainly charismatic and competent and kind. This particular night at this meeting, all I wanted was a decent night's sleep. My best friend had come to the meeting so that I could take care of her. She was interviewing in San Francisco at the time for a new job. And she brought with her a gift for me, the book Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. If you've not read that book, please read that.
I have not. I will read that book, though.
Yeah, it's an important one. Anyways, she brings this book to me and I open it up and it's Christ consciousness, this and that. And it's Marianne's reflections on her work with A Course in Miracles. Another good thing to read if you haven't. And I just open the book, right? And I see all this spiritual language. And I just look at Heidi. I close it and said, I love you and I don't have time for this. As I'm like smoking my cigarette, maybe drinking a shot of vodka before I go off to lead my next session. So this particular night, she goes and just socializes in the city. I just want to sleep. And I don't know, it was probably about 1 a.m. I woke up and the terror I felt in my system felt very much like I used to feel as a kid. And I knew someone was in my room. I could feel it. And I opened my eyes, and sure enough, that same entity that used to harass me as a little kid was standing at the foot of my bed. And his arms were crossed, and he was, I don't know, studying me. And I sat up and I looked at him and I said, "It's you. It's only you. I'm not afraid of you." And I went back to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, all I could feel was the love of God. I had nothing but unconditional love operating in my system. I forgave these people at work that were doing terrible things. And my stepfather, who was the focal point of my childhood trauma, was the only person I could reach by phone back in St. Louis, where I was from. And I just told him I loved him and that I forgave him, and that the only reason we exist at all is to learn how to love. That is literally the singular purpose of your existence. And he dropped the phone because I heard it like banging around.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he said, "Blonde Beauty, I don't have an explanation for this, but a golden eagle just landed on the crabapple tree in the backyard." And then he leaves again and comes back. He said, "I don't know what's happening, but now there's a red fox at the base of the tree looking up at the eagle." So he has Comanche roots, and obviously in indigenous traditions, the eagle is the symbol of the divine. And if you don't know what the red fox is, it's a noble messenger. So from that moment on, it's been over 30 years, this violent man is kind and gentle. So the energy that I was connected to in that transmission, changed him. And I changed too.
That's fucking powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. And so what was the moment then that cracked you open and led you down the path of yoga and service?
Oh, yeah, that's a big question. It's funny that I haven't been a yoga most of my life. I don't quite know how that happened, in that I was doing Tai Chi every day as a little girl and meditating. I was already doing yoga, just didn't realize it.
Didn't have a name?
Yeah.
You didn't.
I don't know. I just follow divine guidance. Before the awakening, even though I wouldn't have language for that, the better voices that I would hear were the voices of, or the voice of the divine. And that voice led me to yoga teacher training, a year or so before the pandemic. I had been practicing yoga for my own purposes, but that voice told me to do it. And another aspect of this is, prior to really committing to the practice of yoga, I was always doing like high impact aerobics and exercise.
Okay.
And again, that guidance told me, back off on that and do this instead. And I'm like, okay. What I didn't realize at the time was that if I had continued with high impact of aerobics, it would have killed me.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, and we can get into why that was. Yeah. So I did my first initial training with a beautiful woman named Hana Muse, who was trained by Baba Hari Das. So there's just a couple of Indian yogis that came to the US that impact. One was Yogananda, everybody knows him. But Baba Hari Das founded the Mount Madonna Institute, which is an ashram. There's a school, an Ayurvedic center. Anyway, so she was trained by Baba Hari Das, who didn't speak. He was a silent yogi. He didn't speak from 54 until his death in 08.
Wow.
So that was her teacher. And a lot of what I understand about the practice is a reflection of him. And a lot of people think yoga is about moving your body. Well, yeah.
It is, partially.
It's about an eighth. Look at the 8 limbs of yoga. Asana is one of the 8. There's so much more to it. Yeah, so to me, being a yoga teacher, offering yoga as an act of service here in my community is just a natural extension of my life journey.
The path, yeah.
It's the path. Yeah, yeah.
And so, as you said, you teach it as an sacred act of service. So you offer classes at no charge to your community. What impact has that choice had on your relationship with your community and yourself? Also, I'd love to know, What led you to that decision of offering this service for free to your community?
Sure. I do what I'm told. So
Okay.
when I moved back to Missouri in March of 22, and I converted this big garage here. I'll move the camera just for a second so you can see it. So
Wow.
that's my place.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's what I was told to do. So I'm like, okay. So when I first got here, I was teaching yoga on my back lawn because I was renovating this big garage into my center. And I don't know why God had a preference in terms of the economic model, but said, do it for free. So I'm like, okay. So that's what I do.
Wild.
And you asked me about the impact on the community.
And yourself.
I mean,
your relationship with yourself.
I think you'd have to ask them, right? But this small town, I don't live in St. Louis. That's where I grew up. But when God called me back, God had a preference and said Franklin County. I didn't even know what that meant. And I told my realtor, I'm like, God says Franklin County. And she said, okay. So it's about an hour west of the city. And I live in a small Christian community called Washington, where a lot of the community has been instructed by church leaders that yoga leads to Satan and is a demonic practice. So that's what I'm confronting here as I can. Yoga festival in another neighboring town. We've been doing it for 4 years. A beautiful woman named Kathy Kessler puts it together. And so last festival in August, I held a workshop basically explaining the alignment between the teachings of Yeshua and the yoga tradition. I had 20 people sign up, but hey, that's 20 people that I impacted. And
yeah, for sure.
I can't really speak to why leaders of churches say that. I have some theories.
I'd love to hear one of your theories anyway.
Yoga is all about union, right? That's what yoga in Sanskrit means. It means union, conscious union with the divine. And it is a set of practices to create the inner conditions for that conscious union. So it's about direct experience of God. What would be a role of a church or a priest or a pastor?
To connect people to God. So yoga, they're thinking yoga is trying to replace
I don't know.
the church's role.
I mean, they also say meditation leads to the devil. I don't know. Bless their hearts, as you say in the South, which is really a way of offering a judgment, but making it sound nice. I don't know. I don't know. But what I try to do when people come here is just love them. I do in my short Dharma talks before we begin. I try almost every class to offer verses, both from either the Gnostic Gospels, the New Testament, and the yoga tradition, whether that's from the Gita or the Upanishads, whatever, to let them know that it's saying the same thing. Now,
I love it.
What yoga doesn't align with are the teachings of Paul. And Paul, as for whatever reason, I've got some theories on that too, defined Christian doctrine. And his doctrine has nothing to do with the teachings of Jesus. In fact, they're in some ways diametrically opposed. So what I would say is yoga aligns with the teachings of Jesus. Yoga does not align with the teachings of Paul.
There we go. I will leave it at that.
Right.
What does service mean to you on a very soul level?
I think just doing what I can to impact the life of someone else in a positive way. So service is not so much what you do, it's how you do what you do. So it has everything to do with how you interact with a cashier at the grocery store. If there's someone homeless asking for help, do you stop and interact with that person? Ask them how they're doing, maybe ask, how did this happen? How did you get here? Offer what you can. Yeah. Again, I think it's an extension of the point of incarnation, which is to learn how to love, and not love in the human, sticky, messy, shadowy way that we love.
Just be kind.
But love as Jesus, Yeshua, I don't even like to say Jesus, Yeshua taught, which is
say whatever you
love your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. And here's the tricky part. If you think those two things are hard, how about love your enemies?
I think it's really not that hard to be kind to others. I don't know why we as a human race struggle so hard with this, but it doesn't cost you anything to be kind. You could completely change the trajectory of someone's day just by being kind to them, just by saying, hello, how are you? Asking with curiosity and really meaning what you're saying, not just asking as a passing, fluttering thought, but really caring about what the person has to say. But it really doesn't take much to be kind, in my opinion anyways. I don't think it's that hard.
It is hard for someone whose nervous system is in an overly sympathetic state. And I don't mean sympathy, right? As it relates to the autonomic nervous system, which is basically the accelerator pedal, right? The fight or flight. So many of us have unresolved trauma, right? You don't walk, you don't get out of here without it. And so if you don't tend to yourself, then it is, I think, challenging to be kind, because you're not kind to yourself, right? You're not loving yourself. So you can't be kind or love anyone else, at least not sincerely.
Yeah.
And now I think a lot of people, in fact, most people, I would say, are in kind of survival mode. Economically, spiritually, emotionally, physically. So I think that's why it's hard.
So you speak about cultivating a more intimate and disciplined inner life. What does that actually look like in practice, day to day?
Sitting with your spine straight, eyes closed. Yeah, it starts there. I couldn't even count, maybe I could, in a day, how often I am praying, consciously radiating the energy of love out from my system as a practice. But again, just like anything, if you're not disciplined in that, like you wouldn't see a violin and expect to be able to pick it up and play it. That's true as well with this kind of disciplined inner life, conscious communion with God, living from that place. All of that requires your devotion.
For sure. It's like anything. You have to practice at things. You have to work at it before you can become better at it.
Yeah.
But if you practice it, you will become better.
And like I say, when I teach asana, the physical practice of yoga here, I'm like, what we're doing on the mat is just practice for out there. So as we do something with our bodies that's uncomfortable, right? I don't want them to be in pain, but boy, some of these things that we do are very difficult, right? And so I always have them check in, and I'll even ask them in the middle of a pose, what's your inner life right now? Because this time on the mat is to do these things that are uncomfortable, that challenge us, while also helping us understand that's the work, right? To be in that conscious relationship, embodying the love of God when it's hard.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the point. Putting your foot over your head or whatever is...
And deep contemplation.
What's your inner life like? Right? Are you judging yourself? Are you being unkind to yourself? Are you...
We are our own worst enemies. We are the hardest on ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Are you comparing yourself to your neighbor who is doing a better standing split than you or whatever? So yeah, that's the point. And the yogis, I'm a yogi in training, the real yogis would say that asana is just to prepare the body for meditation. There's no other, there's no other point.
Yeah.
In the Western world, we think it's all about, there's this Indian comedian, I've forgotten her name. She's hilarious. And she basically talks about how yoga's been co-opted by the West. and how it's become a blood sport. And she talks about people with their $200 yoga pants.
Yoga pants, yes.
They have like holes in them, like on purpose. And she with the beautiful like bag for your mat, and you're like hurrying to yoga. And she's, if you're hurrying to yoga, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, you're defeating the purpose.
She said,
You're already
yoga is
amped up before you get there.
something that we do in India in our pajamas. So anyway.
This is a great segue. In what ways do you believe yoga is misunderstood or misrepresented in the Western culture?
Oh, gosh.
Do you have an hour?
Again, I think I can't say this, but I think a lot of people think of yoga as the physical practice of yoga and nothing more. Maybe they're exposed to a little breath work in a yoga class. Maybe the teacher begins the class with some quiet, but most people don't understand that it means conscious union with God, and there's a lot more to it. I spoke about how church leaders characterize it, so that's definitely a misunderstanding. What I often say when people come here for the first time, and there's trepidation, right? And I said, have you been kind to someone this morning? You're already practicing yoga.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's 8 limbs. The first limb are the yamas, which basically read like the 10 commandments. These are ethical guidelines, the yamas.
Right.
The niyamas, the second limb of yoga, is all about observances of self, like how you treat and tend and care for yourself.
Okay.
The third limb is asana, which is the physical practice, though in Sanskrit, asana just means to sit.
Okay.
Yeah. The others have to do with meditation, concentration.
Please share the rest. You might as well let's go through them.
Yeah.
I would love for you to share those.
Yeah. So concentration, like this idea of what you focus on matters.
Yeah.
Meditation is another limb. And the ultimate limb is samadhi, which is this felt sense, this felt connection.
Somatics.
No.
Embodiment. No. Okay.
Feeling and connecting and embodying the love of God. That samadhi state is that.
Okay.
So that's the 8th limb. And if you think of all the limbs, they lead to samadhi.
Okay. Samadhi is the culmination of all of it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't reach that kind of communion with God if you're unethical.
True.
You can't reach that communion with God if you're scattered in your mind and you don't have the capacity to stop those fluctuations and just focus on the love of God.
Yeah.
Right? You can't know God if you can't sit in the quiet and feel God's presence. It's like trying to have a important conversation in a noisy room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
What was the hardest discipline you had to master on this path?
Oh, geez. I guess, and ask me next week and I might have a different answer. But right now, what it feels like is the despair that I can sometimes feel just observing the world as it is. So not feeling dispirited, right? Because when I get overwhelmed, and I do, it does happen. What then happens is I don't want to sit, even though that is the medicine. I just can't even believe how absurd modern life is. I just learned yesterday there is a new Kraft macaroni and cheese called apple pie. What the fuck? Just excuse me, but it's just like apple pie mac and cheese. Like,
I did not know that existed.
I mean, that's just an example, right, of something that if I focus too much on all the poison that's sold in the grocery store, right, or all of the manipulation done by, and there's just a few of them that run this whole planet, right?
Yes,
all of it,
a handful.
It just gets overwhelming. So I think that's the challenge. A lot of people seek awakening, not really understanding what that means, and that it's not unicorns and rainbows. It's actually much harder to be awake because you are so aware of the contrast between this energetic relationship you have with God, what that means, how it feels, the clarity that you have in both your heart and your mind, and you see none of it reflected, right? You see it reflected in your interactions probably in a typical day, right? Most people are kind. Most people are doing their very best. I think most people are moral. But boy, you turn on the television or you scroll on Instagram and you're like, oh my God, what a colossal shit show.
Clusterfuck.
What is going on? And so that contrast is a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah, you don't want to be an ostrich with your head in the sand. You want to be self-aware and aware of what's going on, but you also don't want to go down those deep and dark rabbit holes because they can be very deep and dark and be very hard to get out of as well. So I think it's finding that balance of not giving too much of your attention or time to the negative shit that's going on. Be aware of it, but don't give too much energy and time to it because that's not good for anybody, least of all you, starting with you. Then, of course, it spills out or ripples out to the people around you as well because your mood shifts and that affects other people. And so you just have to be so careful with where you put your attention and what you give your attention to.
It's hard, but what you also know is that you have a responsibility.
Yep.
And I like to call it an energetic responsibility because nothing on this crazy rock spinning through the universe is going to change until the collective vibration, the collective energy changes, right? And that enlightening, right? That lifting only happens when more and more people are loving, kind, grateful, in service, right? That's how this changes because every time your heart beats, it generates an electromagnetic wave of energy. We proved all that out at HeartMath, where I had the privilege of working. And so you're broadcasting something all the time. And the quality of that broadcast matters a lot, way more than you think
For sure.
Way more than you think it does.
If more people realize and shift their mindset to understand that this is why we're all here, is to be in and of service to one another, to cheer, to uplift each other, to cheerlead each other, to support each other. That is why we're all here. So if more people could step into that and shift into that, the world would be an incredibly beautiful fucking place. How powerful would that be? Oh my God.
I know.
It would be amazing. It would be a thing of beauty and magic.
Oh my God, it's such a gorgeous planet, right? God has given us literally everything that we need.
We have that all within us.
And
it's all there.
We've just literally effed it up really significantly. And the hope for me is that all the sacred books, all the teachers who have come, they all say the same thing. And these books all have a happy ending, but not before it gets really bad.
Dark.
And I think we are really in that right now.
Do you think, in your opinion, that we are seeing more people, for again, lack of a better term, clear seeing, we'll use your term, or awakening? Do you think we're seeing more of that?
Yes, I do.
Because of what's going on in the world?
Yes, I do.
As a catalyst?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that. But I look at just even when I worked at HeartMath in the 90s, that was a much more difficult conversation to have with the average person than it is now.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that were considered really alternative and are more mainstream. So I look at...
Why do you think that is? What do you think is causing this shift in people clear seeing or awakening?
I think it's the ultimate divine plan. I think that's where we're headed. So there is that, right? There is this force, this energy guiding that, needing to confront its opposite, right? Darkness is real, evil is real.
Yes.
And there's an energetic expression of that darkness, right? Just like there is its opposite. And I don't know. I think you'd have to ask line up a bunch of people and ask them, I guess. I think you reach a certain point in your life, and if you're have any semblance of self-awareness, you get to a point where you realize that the program that you've adopted isn't working.
And more than likely, it's not yours.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah. So I think there's just a mix of things. I think there is the benevolent, all loving energy of God that's changing and helping to awaken people. I think there is the tendency for human beings at a certain point in their life to be like, I got to change. Yeah, I don't know.
I do think that part of it, and maybe it's only a small part, but I think a part of it is the light being shone on the evil and what we're seeing. And I mean, I think that's a catalyst for a lot of people seeing what they've been lied to about all this time. And really, there's still a lot of people who can't see it, and that's okay. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Whatever they do, that's their path and that's their journey. But I think that through conversations like this, through the work that we each do on this planet, that's part of our journey, is to help to shine a light on these things and enlighten people through conversation about what's available to them, different things that they can learn about through listening to these conversations, which helps enlighten or awaken, whatever word you want to use, to what's going on.
Yeah, I think that all helps. And I love quoting my mother on this. When I told her that I was moving to California to work at Heart Math, and she's like, "Oh, honey, go to California. I've lived all over the world. I don't even know why I'm still here," which was St. Louis. And then she just got quiet for a second and looked at me and goes, "But honey, nobody's going to change because they go to your workshop." And what she meant was that's inadequate, right? So even having a conversation with someone that maybe gets them to look at something differently, right? Or gives them information or whatever. Or maybe you're just shining so much loving energy out from your heart to them that at least in your presence, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like they have but again, they walk away from that. And if they don't change how they go about their day, that momentary shift in awareness is temporary.
Yeah, you think about all the people that go to conferences, seminars, and they listen to people speak and yes, this is amazing. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do this and this. And they get home and they may do it for a little while, but then typically they fall back into the old patterns, and that's typically the way it happens. But it's down to the individual. It's how bad do you want to change? What change do you want to see? And who do you want to be? Who do you want to become?
Yeah, and I often ask people, whether they're my clients or students, what are you devoted to?
Yeah.
People don't realize like material acquisition, all the things, like that's a devotion. That's a devotional practice, whether you realize it or not. If you are eating unconsciously all day long, that's a devotion. You're devoted to poisoning yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah.
Take a long, hard look at yourself and what you're doing. Like I said, it all starts here within us. We are the foundation for all of it.
Absolutely. And that's the hope and the power too, is that
yes, absolutely.
You truly have the power to know without reservation two things that I think make all the difference: that you're divine and you're eternal. And when you understand that, and when you connect to the felt sense of that, you're not afraid. For whatever reason, the one thing we're guaranteed to experience is our own death. And it's the one thing that most people are completely unprepared for.
Yep, for sure. I would agree with that. What have you learned about humanity by simply being present in that sacred space of stillness with others?
Oh, gosh. I know it sounds contrived, but, people do the best they can with the consciousness and awareness they have. Yeah. And to do that inner tending, right, is not easy. To get radically honest about what you've experienced and to love yourself and love your God enough to not look away. Because people can use spiritual practice as a bypass. Yeah, I don't know. I've had hundreds of people come through here, and I know they have a good experience, they tell me, but most don't come back in any disciplined, regular way. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
for whatever reason, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
What do you hope people feel when they walk into your yoga center?
Seen.
A basic human need. That's all everybody wants, is to be seen and to be heard.
Yeah, and to feel safe and to feel inspired to do that inner tending.
What have you learned about yourself through the act of guiding others back to themselves?
I'm good at it. I don't know. I guess I get inspired, right, by seeing the shifts in people. I know that I'm doing what God wants. Yeah. Every encounter is a little bit different, but yeah, that's a hard question to fully answer because it's variable in a way. Yeah, and I guess just this overriding acknowledgement that it is hard to be a human being with clear seeing. And a lot of people that awaken, in fact, one of my most popular videos on social was me talking about my awakening. And if I had confided in a mental health professional about it, I would have been medicated and maybe even institutionalized. So, yeah, there was one student I had who shared with me recently that when she met me when I first got here, she was suicidal, like literally had a gun. And for whatever reason, she was called. She noticed that I was talking about what I offer, and she came and she said, "You saved my life."
That's powerful.
And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe that's why I came here. Maybe that singular act of service to that young woman was why God asked me to come. I don't know.
That's a huge and beautiful act of service. And you just were doing what you do. It wasn't even you set out to. Wow.
Yeah, she had an awakening and was, in that place of questioning her health. I say this in my book, like when shamans go to mental institutions, they find their people. What they see are these healers who just can't integrate what they're connected to. Yeah.
What a beautiful gift. Truly.
Thanks.
That's amazing and so beautifully inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. So let's dive into your Ready to Awaken courses. Can you tell us all the things about the courses? What are they about? When did you first start offering them? What inspired creating these courses for you?
I created them with a woman back in Santa Cruz, California, where I lived most of my adult life. She and I co-authored the original curriculum, and we were teaching that in Santa Cruz. And when I moved here and I was just thinking about all the things I was going to offer, and this process, Ready to Awaken, was one of them, it was the best attempt that I could make about deconstructing the awakening process to the best degree that I could. So what the Ready to Awaken courses are, and I've changed the name recently to Living the Principles, and I'm figuring out how to create online courses with them. I've got a ways to go, but it's really looking at spiritual principles, understanding what those are, and how to then embody that in your modern daily life. So we begin with the energy of love. What is that? What is divine love? And give them an opportunity through practice to begin to experience what that feels like. We start there because that energetic relationship is key to everything else. And it's incredibly important going in from the first couple of weeks where we learn how to do that into the hard stuff, the shadow work, which I call responsibility of self, going back to what I mentioned earlier, this energetic responsibility that we have
Yeah.
to ourselves and to the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to unpack. You have to unpack. I get people to understand pretty early on that as much as you think your emotional reactions are about someone else, right? What they said, what they did, all blah, 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 all the things. No, because somebody else could have that exact same experience and have a completely different reaction, right? So
True.
how we react when we are emotionally reactive, that's a call from our unhealed self. So a good amount of the early work in what I teach is looking at each developmental stage of life and getting radically honest about what you experienced. What was the belief system that got created? What were the ways that you coped? I'll give you a concrete example. When I was itty bitty, like a toddler, my first sentence that I said out loud was, I want to do it all by myself at 15 months. Why would that be my first articulation?
That would come from
I wasn't safe. There was no one to safely rely on. So of course I want to do it all by myself. Right. And people would say, gosh, you're so independent. My mother would talk about my competence. And I'm like, yeah, I learned later, Mom, it was all a trauma response. Right. So beginning to connect those inner dots and then bring the energy of love to those wounded aspects of self. Right. So that's what we spend a lot of time doing in the coursework. And then from there, beginning to do the work of, okay, what do you choose to believe? It's all a choice.
Yep.
When I went and I stayed with the founder of my grade school after my awakening, I was pregnant with my first son and I traveled to Florida, and she was like a whiskey drinking, like smoking mystic. And I asked her, I said, Mary, what did you hope the lasting legacy of our education was? And she didn't hesitate. And she just looked at me and she goes, I wanted you to know that every thought and feeling you have is your choice.
Wow.
We do that, right? What do you want to choose? What do you want to believe? What is in your highest to hold as a belief system or a series of beliefs, right?
That's some pretty deep work.
Yeah. And then how do these spiritual laws help you create a better quality of life? Like in New Age circles, like the law of attraction. I hate that word. But what it is, an acknowledgement of energetic resonance, right? Like that like energy is attracted to each other, right?
Yes.
So if you are energetically putting out into the world frustration, like any of the things, guess what? That comes right back.
Yep. Tenfold.
Yeah. So we look at those laws, right? And we also, there's a song that we used to sing at my grade school, like, what I focus on expands, my life is in my own hands, my thoughts and feelings they create, so I choose a joyful state. So anyway, this understanding that what you choose to focus on is creative, like you're creating your life all the time.
Yeah. We have the power to do that.
And we're doing it whether we're conscious of it or not.
Yeah.
Right.
But so many people don't realize they have the power or that they are doing it or they have the ability to do that.
Yeah. So I have them do some pretty honest inventory, like think about the last week as an example and really journal about what did I spend most of my time thinking about? And it tends to be the same things, right? We tend to go over the same old things over and over again and then wonder why things aren't different.
The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Yeah. And ultimately, those courses are about responsibility.
Radical responsibility.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, most definitely. How do you personally define enlightenment? And do you believe we ever truly arrive?
I don't define it. I feel like I know what it feels like to have that kind of clear seeing. I don't have it all the time. It's not like my constant state. God knows. And like the news flash about it is, no, you're never done. Always deeper, wider places you can travel in your own awareness. And even if I healed everything as Regan, right?
Yeah.
I learned that when I was dying, and the solution to my imminent death was emergency open heart surgery, which is why God had told me to urgently move home. So this was in December of 21 in meditation. God said, you must urgently move home. That was it. It was just like,
okay.
I'm like, okay. So I look on my phone because I'm in Joshua Tree in the middle of nowhere to see if I have enough bars to make a phone call. Thankfully, I did. I called my husband, told him, said, God says I have to urgently move home. I do what I'm told. And then my second call was to a friend who was a realtor. Anyway, I'll try to condense this, but got here. So I left, sold my beach house. I lived right on Monterey Bay in a resort neighborhood. Everyone thought I was like cuckoo's Cocoa Puffs. You're moving back to Missouri? Huh? Like, why?
You're leaving this beautiful life?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, I am. And then I got here. And a couple of months after I got here, and I was teaching yoga on my back lawn, as I mentioned, again in my quiet devotional time, I was told to urgently go to a doctor. So urgent was in both directives. I'm like, okay, God, sure. I found a country doctor. He saw me the next day, which you can do in a small town. And what do doctors do? They listen to your heart. And he said, Regan, something's terribly wrong. We need to get you scheduled for an echocardiogram as quickly as possible, which was the following day. And then the day after that is when I learned I was dying and that I needed emergency open heart surgery to replace my aortic valve. I had a birth defect in my heart. Anyway, the reason I was called home by God was Barnes Hospital in St. Louis, where I was born, just happens to be one of the best places in the world for aortic valve replacement. I ended up getting very sick after surgery, and this is circling back to your question. And I had life-threatening heart inflammation. Again, I don't know what your listeners believe, but for me, like I have capacity to remember other times that I've been here. And what would happen to me often as a teacher didn't end well. And there was I was murdered many times, right, in very dramatic ways. And I remember as a little kid seeing Temple of Doom, the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yep.
And remember that scene where that person, they're pulling the heart out of the body to kill him. I remember as a little kid, like that just freaking me out. It's because it had happened, right? So as it related to the open heart surgery, on a cellular level, on a soul level, I thought I was being murdered. So of course, my response would be protection through heart inflammation. So it took me 6 months to do that kind of healing and repair that had nothing to do with the open heart surgery. It did in a way, but it was that it triggered my trauma
from a past life.
Yeah. So anyway, we're never done. There's always work to do. You don't get a certificate. And I think you can be done having that enlightened awareness, right? Having that moment of clear seeing. There's a certain finality to that, in that once you have it, you can never not have it.
Yeah, you can't unring that bell.
It doesn't mean that you hold it impeccably, but you can never not see what you now see.
What is one simple practice, powerful practice, that anyone can begin today to start creating internal harmony?
Oh, sure. You want to do it? Close your eyes.
Sure.
Close your eyes. Put your hands over your heart, and I want you to take a deep inhale through your nose to a count of 5. Exhale out of the nose to the same count. And as you continue to do that, I want you to try to direct the breath through the center of the chest. This is a heart-centered breathing. So in just focusing on this breath, trying to create a easeful rhythm of breath by counting. So we begin there. And now next, I'd like you to recall a moment in your life when you felt profound love or gratitude for someone or something. perhaps this was even a moment, a God moment that defies words. Whatever it is, just try to go to the most profound love you've known. And beyond the image of that moment in time, right, is how it felt. Re-experience that feeling as you continue to breathe through the heart. So that's it.
That feels beautiful.
Imagine doing that an hour a day.
Incredible.
Right? And what you'll learn as you do that is you'll become more aware of this monkey that operates up here, right? And you don't judge it. You're just like, okay, I'll refocus on my breath. I'll reconnect to that elevated energy, right? So it becomes a bit of a dance between the head and the heart. And that's the longest journey any human being goes, is those 12 inches south from this to this. In fact, in my classes, when I'm talking about Yeshua and the truth of what he taught, and I said in Luke 17:21, he says, the kingdom of God is within you. And so everyone's eyes are closed. And I ask them to point on their body where they think that kingdom is. And everyone puts their hands over their heart. Right? Nobody here, open your eyes. Nobody goes like this.
No, very true.
So it's about that relationship, right? That energetic connection. And it's like scaffolding. Maybe you don't know what the heck God's love feels like for whatever reason, but you know that you love your cat or you love that sunset in Costa Rica when you were on vacation, like whatever. And so you sit in the energy of that. And the more you do, the more you then energetically are able to feel God's love.
Building higher and higher on the scaffolding.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Appreciate that, Regan.
Yeah.
If your soul could speak directly to the world right now, what message would it whisper into our collective heart?
Keep going.
All right. What does freedom mean to you at the very deepest level, beyond money, status, recognition, all of those things?
I think it's what Mary said, having the capacity to choose your thoughts and your feelings. That's freedom, right? That's emotional sovereignty, that no matter what is going on, and that's one of the niyamas in yoga, santosha, which is contentment. And that contentment has nothing to do with what's going on externally. Because as long as that's true, then you're riding the roller coaster of someone else's choices and decisions, right?
Conditioning, all of it.
Yeah. So it's like, how do I feel good when it's hard? And just like I was talking about being on the mat, right? Yeah, that's freedom. The freedom to choose your response to life and to hold the love of God in your heart. That's freedom.
Okay. What does success mean to you? How do you define success?
I think it has everything to do with the purpose of incarnation, right? Like, even though we ask young people, where are you going to go to college? What job are you going to get? As if that effing matters.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Instead of, what practices do you have that bring you closer to God? Are you able to embody the love and energy of God to inform the choices you make? That's success, right? Success is to learn that you're dying and to be at complete peace about it.
That's a tough one for a lot of people.
So do that unpacking. Why is that?
Where is it coming from? Some of it's not yours.
Well, most of it isn't.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, we've been conditioned to fear our own death.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's success. Can you be sovereign and fearless?
What does empowerment mean to you?
To me, it's it's like an energetic condition, right? To feel empowered means to feel that you can. It's the I can, right? For me, my I can is really, I only feel truly empowered when I'm quiet and connected to God. That's the ultimate empowerment, because I'm aware of my true nature.
Okay. We're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping of questions just be 1, 2, 3 word answer type thing. Okay. What is your favorite place on earth?
Costa Rica.
One of your secret or hidden talents?
I'm a really good singer.
Okay. If you could teach the world one thing, what would that be?
To love themselves.
What is one of your guilty pleasures?
Wine.
What is one word that sums up your mindset?
My mindset? Resilience.
One book that changed your life?
Return to love.
What is one word that defines the woman you are becoming?
I can't think of just one.
2.
Honest.
Okay. That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I created a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time. How do you define love, both the kind you give and the kind you receive?
It's a hard thing to define with words because it's an energetic state. Yeah. There's a profound okayness when I am consciously connected to love, not human love, divine love, right? Like when I'm connected to that energy, I truly feel like all is well. There is such a profound okayness.
Okay. If you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning your occupation, where you're from, your ethnicity, your nationality, all of these superficial day-to-day markers that we use, how would you introduce yourself to me?
I'm a courageous seeker.
Beautiful. I love that. If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I did not ask you?
How did I get to a place where I don't fear death?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. After my awakening, which I mentioned if I had confided in a mental health professional, they would have locked me up, just like they did my mother. Anyway, like Luke Skywalker in the first Star Wars movie when he's being trained to be a Jedi and he's confronting Darth Vader and seemingly like a simulation, right? It's all a creation of his mind, his fears, right? And then Yoda is creating the conditions for everything that he's afraid of to come right at him and can hold the light in the presence of darkness. So my post-awakening process for years was all about that. I was confronted every night by demonic energy. I was pulled out of my body against my will. Again, I know it sounds nuts, but what I learned in time with no manual, there's no honest post-awakening handbook that I have found. There's a lot of BS out in the world about it. But anyway, what I ended up learning how to do, which now in today's world is called remote viewing, I learned how to leave my body. I learned how to exit my body and return to it at will. So what that taught me through the direct experience, as you might imagine, is that I'm not my body. If I can leave my body, see my body, return to my body, I'm clearly not that. So why would I fear the death of it? Energy doesn't die. We learn that in physics, right? The law of conservation. Energy can't be created or destroyed. Guess what? Newsflash, your energy. You don't die. But the thing that's holding your energy,
your meat suit,
this meat suit, I like mine. I feel like I chose a pretty one this time, isn't it? So there's no fear of that. And I think if everyone understood the eternal reality, they wouldn't be afraid. And frankly, they'd live differently.
So people learn how to remote view or astral project, and that will set you on the right path. Everyone has the ability to do it.
Yeah, maybe. I can't say.
No, but it's a possibility. It's better than staying stuck in this fear of dying. Yeah. Give it a try.
And one thing I even do in Shavasana, the final rest in asana practice, is as people are in this deep, relaxed state, I share this Kriya mantra, which is, I'm not my body. I'm not even my mind. And what you begin to understand in that profound quiet is that you can observe your mind, right? You can observe your thoughts, the activity of mind. You can observe your body, right? The bodily sensations you have. Who's doing the observing?
You are. There you go. I would say give remote viewing or astral projection a try. Why not? What have you got to lose?
Yeah, but
Right?
don't have it be recreational. Its
No, do it with intent,
its
purpose for
purpose is
sure.
just to teach you the truth of who you
Mm-hmm.
are. That to me
Mm-hmm.
is the only reason to learn how to do it. Because you can do, just like anything, you could manipulate that.
Yes,
And
very
you
true.
don't want to do that.
You don't want to fuck with that stuff. Not in that way.
No, just do it enough to know the truth of who you are, which you could
Mm-hmm.
also just do in Shavasana, right? Like in that witnessing, you understand that you're something other than your mind.
I personally like the idea of remote viewing and astral projection. I'm going on that journey. I'm going on that route.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever known that?
No, I've tried a couple times. I haven't gotten there, but I'm going to continue to try because anything else, you have to keep at it. You have to work at it. You have to practice. So I do love the idea of it. I do know about it, but my desire is to get to that point where I can do that for sure. I love the idea of it. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely what I would say that it is in essence
Mhm.
is a real leap of faith.
Yes, for sure. For sure. Absolutely agreed. I love the thought of it though. It really like it's just and the fact that we all have the ability to do it, right? Just like anything else, we all have the ability to do anything our hearts desire. It's just a matter of the leap of faith. Do you believe you can do it? Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Period. So, if you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Mary Magdalene.
Okay.
Because she really knew how to embody the love of God. So I'd want to learn as much as I could.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Do your homework. I was so rebellious, and because I was so smart, my dad had a full ride to Harvard at 16. My mother did her postgraduate work at the Sorbonne, the Harvard of France, in the 1950s.
Wow.
My grandmother went to Cornell in 1900, and she was the daughter of a plumber. Like she wasn't there because she was wealthy. And because of the violence and the craziness in my house, I was just focused on safety. I didn't have the capacity or desire to study, and I didn't like doing what I was told. I have a real problem with institutional authority. Like, yeah. And if I had, God had directed me the summer before my senior year in high school, said, study, do what you're told. And I was like, okay. So I did. And I easily got straight A. It was like the easiest thing in the world. And so after that, I'm like, man, I should have done that the whole time. Like all my peers from my magical grade school went to Harvard, and I was ahead of them because everything was self-paced, what we did at the school. Yeah. So anyway, but I was, yeah. So yeah.
You had another path.
Yeah, it just would have been interesting to see what would have happened had I just done the basics. What I was being asked to do instead of going like this and being like, I'm smart enough to show up to a test cold. And I could draw a lot of information out of the air like my mom. But anyway, so.
Lastly, Regan, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your tribe, your people, your corner of the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
Do your very best to know God.
Okay. Beautiful. Regan, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. I have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. We've gone in many different directions and I've loved every minute of it. Thank you so much for showing up, sharing, and shining your wisdom, your knowledge, your insights. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. I appreciate you being here with me today. I am honored to call you a member of the Empowerography community and a friend. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And if you're interested, I did publish a memoir in November of this year called Tragic Magic. So yeah,
we'll put the link for that in the show notes when we release your episode. Absolutely.
But thank you. 100%. I loved your questions and I loved your presence. So
Thank you, Regan. It was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest has been Regan Caruthers. She is the founder of Aset Yoga Center, where she teaches and helps her clients to achieve a more intimate and disciplined inner life. She's also the creator of the Ready to Awaken courses. Thank you so much, Regan. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.